Good morning, everyone. It's Daryl, and we're here today working on a Ariens snow thrower. It's not self-propelled. This one here you have to push along yourself, so it's on the low end of the machine size-wise, but it does a really nice job for little places and not a lot of heavy work. This particular model, the ST2+2 standard, as it's called, it's kind of a lower end model, but it does have the electric start option hooked up on it. Easy start. I think it's a 5-horse. It's got a primer button and a choke, so it makes it easier to start in the winter. What else? One control handle that engages the augers, and it doesn't have self-propelled like a transmission or gearbox, but what it does have are these rubber tips on the auger blades that most two-stages don't have, and those rubber tips actually touch the ground as you're going through the snow and help pull the snowblower along the path. So it does provide a little bit of self-propel assist by means of those rubber tips on the auger blades, and those wear out after time and have to be replaced. These particular ones look like they might be riveted on. You have to cut out the rivets and replace them with rivets. It's a substantial job time-wise, but not particularly difficult. I think I've seen the auger pad kits sell for about $35 to $45. Then you need to buy some rivets and a rivet tool and pop them back on. And it'll take you a couple hours to do it if you've never done it before. At least an hour even if you have done it before, I would think. You do not have to remove the augers or anything to do it, though. You can do it all from the front of the machine while the augers are still in place. Make sure you drain your gas out at the end of the year or put fuel stabilizer in it. These are 4-cycle machines, so they have oil. You need to check the oil every time you use it, preferably. That's a really good idea to get in the habit of doing that on something like this. And change the oil. I'd change the oil once every year or two on it at the most. Probably a 5W30 or straight 30 weight would be good. And it holds approximately 20 ounces, I believe. Most of these small engines like this hold 20 to 24 ounces. But it has a dipstick, so you can add a little oil. Just unscrew it, add 20 ounces, then check your oil again with the dipstick. And if you need to add a little bit more, add a little bit more. And like I say, check it. I get in the habit of checking it every time you use it for more than an hour or two, just to make sure it's not burning a lot of oil, or because you won't run out of oil and seize your engine up and have major repairs. But I highly recommend these old Ariens and Simplicity snow throwers. These have a lot of life in them. They seem to last a long time, and they do a really nice job. The only thing is, it starts to slip when it gets into the deep, heavy snow after it's ran for a few minutes, and then the auger shuts off. So there's really only 3 things it could be to cause the auger to start slipping like that. 1 would be a bad belt. 2 would be that the shear pins were broke on the main shaft. And 3 would be the gearbox. First thing I say would be the belts. Second thing you need to check would be the shear pins here and here. And these shear pins go through here and here. I say they go through. And they're to protect you in case you hit a rock or something and wedge it up, that you don't damage the main drive here inside the differential box here. And that's the third thing. It could be bad. Something could be wrong inside the differential. The shear pin could be broke, or the belt could be going bad. And I don't think it's the shear pin, because I can move it back and forth here by hand and not make it slip. Same thing with the differential. I can spin the differential main drive shaft, and this moves just fine. So since it's doing it after it warms up and used for a while, I'm thinking the belts are warming up and stretching out a little bit when they get warm and not making good contact with the pulleys. One more tip for you real quick before we move on, though. If you ever do break one of these shear pins and have to replace it, do not use a regular bolt and screw in it. It's very dangerous, and you'll destroy your main gear inside this differential box here. And if you do that on a lot of these older models, you might as well just throw the whole thing away, because they're really hard to find parts for. And you can tell the difference usually between a shear pin and a regular bolt. The shear pins almost always have a tapered tip on them like this to indicate that they're not a regular bolt. And see, both of these have the tapered tips on them. And that means they're made of a softer metal, or else they have a little cutout ring in the center of them to allow them to snap if it gets obstructed and comes to a sudden stop. The other thing while you're under here, there's some grease fittings on here. There's like 2 grease fittings on each shaft. It's always a good idea to keep some grease on those. just to keep these shafts from seizing up on the drive shaft, the augers. You don't want the augers seizing up on the drive shaft if you ever have to take it apart and repair it. And also you need to open this bolt hole up here and fill the differential with a little bit of heavy gear oil. Keep it on a flat surface, or you could even just, on this one here, it wouldn't even matter. Tip it up like this, open this up, fill it up with a heavy gear oil, and seal it back up. That'll keep those gears nice and lubricated. Give it a check on each end, pull up and down on the shaft on each end, make sure there's no play in the bearings on either side. Those bearings start to get bad and go out, those can easily be replaced. They're not hard at all to change. And if you put a little bit of maintenance into it, you can keep these old snowblowers running for decades. There's a lot of these still in service that were made in the 60s, and they're still working just fine. So we're going to show you how to access the belts right now to check the belts. We've got a 3/8 inch ratcheting open-end wrench here that we're going to use. We could use a socket or any kind of wrench on it, but I've got this one handy, so we're going to put this on here. We're going to remove these 3/8 inch screws. They're here on the side. And once we get those out, the plastic belt cover should lift right off. Might require a little bit of contortion and twisting, but it should come right off. So there's that. I'm going to lift this up. We're going to carefully, it goes that way. It goes to the right and off. And there we go. Now we're going to have a look at the belt. Check the idler pulley, make sure its bearings are good on it. Check it where the main shaft is. Check this pulley here to make sure it's not loose on the shaft. And the belt doesn't really seem that bad. So the next step is going to be to fire it up, leave this guard off, start it up, engage the auger, and run it for a little while until the blades stop spinning again, and see where the motion has stopped at. If it's the main pulley, if it's the belt, if it's the drive pulley, or something in the gearbox. So we're going to do that now and get back to you. Now we still haven't figured out for sure why the auger is slipping a little bit out sometimes. Let me see if I can squeeze it and then touch it while it's squeezed. You know, it does. I just checked it while I engaged the pulley. There we go, engaging the pulley. And it still seems a little loose. So I think what I'll do is I'll get a new belt for this and I'll put it on. It's really easy to do, honestly. The belt, you don't have to take anything apart other than this cover plate. You pull this back a little bit, the idler back a little bit. You pop the belt off over the idler and then off over the bottom pulley, forward over the top pulley, and the whole thing pulls right out. Super easy to change. You can certainly do this yourself, save a ton of money, and feel accomplished that you did something yourself that someone was going to charge you $100 or more to do. Alright, snowblower maintenance 101. If you have any small engine repair or maintenance questions, feel free to leave a comment below or message me at my email address, which is listed on my webpage and on my YouTube information page. It's darylturcott@gmail.com. Happy to answer any questions and help you out with your small engine problems. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.